welcome to my channel. Well, I picked up another Stoneworx, and I have these other toothpick-like things out here because I had noticed that the Naha looks a lot like a toothpick, and I've had this book for a while, Levine's Guide, and back in the day they called them ticklers. And we'll go ahead and read this, what it says out of here. The tickler is the American clasp knife pattern that looks most like the Southern European clasp knife or a navaja. It is a slender serpentine jackknife with a pointed head or non-blade end. Most are 5 inches long, closed, or even longer. Ticklers have several picturesque names. Many collectors, especially case collectors, call them Texas toothpicks. Others call them powder horns. In the bad old days of the South, the pattern was called the inward chaser, or simply the chaser. As a large but inexpensive knife, it was favored by young, black, sporting gentlemen for a Saturday night wear. Boy, you would not find this particular paragraph printed in a modern anything. I'm just saying, times have changed. In the same vein, the pearl celluloid tickler was described in 1933 as a beautiful Saturday evening special society or switch knife by the Chicago wholesaler Hibbard, Spencer, Bartlett and Company. Man, a lot of people got together and threw their name up there. They couldn't decide on a name, so everybody had to throw their name in there. It's like a lawyer's. Anyway, their miniature charm-sized version was called Pickaninny knife. Again, this is another one of those things that tango or dance knives. Yeah, words are not allowed to be said because they're racist a lot of times. The master blade of a tickler is always a clip point, either flat or saber ground. Many ticklers have a single blade, others have 2 blades, clip and pin. A special type of tickler called a fish knife has either a fish scaler blade back or else a second blade that combines a fish scaler and a hook disgorger. For convenience, a few other specialized fishing patterns include this chapter with these fish knives. American-made ticklers seem to have been introduced in the 1890s. The high cutlery duties imposed by the Tariff Act of 1890 and 1897 raised the price of foreign knives, including clasp knives, and made it possible for American firms to compete with the imports. The fish knife version of the tickler seems to date from the 1920s. Among collectors, ticklers are not as popular as other big American clasp knives. Specialized fishing knives such as the case fly fisherman are now eagerly sought by collectors, and both gadget knives and antique. Some of this popularity has begun to spill over the tickler pattern of fish knives. And the popularity of the word tickler has gone away because we don't even think of that. I mean, when I look at it, I don't even think tickler. Except for Rough Rider had the one they called the French tickler. So that's where they got that from, if you're ever wondering. And then here's some, this is as far as they go on there's their case fish knife. Wow, that's different. Fly fisherman. So that's why I like the toothpick pattern, because what you have, I know we're not talking about the Stoneworx one yet, but what you have is usually a long, this is a needle-like blade on this one. This one actually has a pretty good belly on it. Your normal small toothpick is like this. And a lot of people look at that and go, man, that is barely a blade. You know, they disparage it a lot. I love this pattern. For one, if you're wanting to collect a series, usually the baby toothpick or the small toothpick is the least expensive one in the series. They're like $9 or $10 in Rough Riders a lot of times. Sometimes higher, depending on the fanciness, you know, of the series. Like this is the old Southwest, and it combines simulated stones with, I believe this is real mother of pearl in there, but I'm not sure. Anyway, this pattern, they call it like a powder horn or horn type of thing. You can see where it originally came from. Somebody had an antler, you know, and attached a knife to it. And what's really good about it is the ergonomics, and that little curved lip helps keep it from sliding, you know, going out of your hand. It makes it more secure. This is a GEC number 12. But what we have here is the Stoneworx RR2409. This is the box that it comes in, a big colorful box. And here's some other, this is a Marbles large toothpick, and this is a Rough Ryder large toothpick, and this is another one. Now, these go for a little bit more. They're going for around $20, $21 or so. But to me, it's worth it. The material in here is really nice. Now this one, it's picking the color up a little bit better at this angle, but it's really not doing it justice. You really don't see white out like this. You know, there is color in there. It's just the way the camera is doing that. But the color pattern looks very nice. The fit and finish on this one is really good. There are no gaps or anything. Everything's smooth, even though you've got these different inlays and everything up here. And it's just a very nice pattern. It does have a swedge, you know, on the top, but this was just very highly polished, you know, mirror-like finish on it. And it's in, the newer ones are in 440B. And it does have a half stop. Nice snap to this one. I'm starting to get to like the larger toothpicks. And I know Tobias likes the large toothpicks. My favorite has always been the medium size toothpick. Mainly because when a blade gets this long, there's a temptation with me to want to stab with it, you know? I mean, it's good for cutting like this too, but I mean, if I got a blade this long, I'm going to be tempted to just, yeah. And with a slip joint, you usually don't want to do that. That's usually pretty dangerous. Not a fast stab. You can do a slow push-in type of thing and have less danger. All right, so if you're missing out on the ability to stab with something, here's kind of, again, this is the Kudu, the Cold Steel Kudu, but again, it's like a toothpick. This one locks, so you can do crazy stuff with it. All right. Now this one doesn't really look like a toothpick anymore, and of course I've taken flame to it more than once, but it's a lock bag, and it's a long kind of toothpicky like a. It swells in the end here instead of curving over like a normal toothpick would do, or tickler. I've got the French tickler hiding somewhere, but it just basically looks like this guy with a lock back on him. That's another good knife also. But yeah, this is a very nice series. You do have a long blade. You're getting about 3.5-inch cutting edge and a 4-inch blade overall. So you're getting pretty good size. And you've got plenty of room for your hands if you're a large-handed type person. You know, you've got a good 4.5 inches that you could put your hand in there. Even more if you want to get up to the top. Yeah, you could go 5 inches up here. I think my palm is like 3.5, 3 inches. So that's why I can fit smaller knives into my hand. So yeah, that's a very good knife. And all we have left is really to weigh it and everything. And this is my dilemma. I was gonna get. I had a bunch more Stoneworx. I had, getting ready to order at Smokies. Let's see what we get. 3 ounces. We gotta go all the way back to grams over here. 85 grams, 85.89 grams, or 3 ounces. They drop in the pocket pretty easily. They're a pretty good size, as long as you don't get carried away with them. This is a pretty fancy one. You whip this out, and even though it's got a long blade on it and everything else, I don't think people would be, you never know about sheep, but I don't think this should offend the sheeple as much if it's a pretty knife. You can get away with more with a pretty knife, even though it's like, woo, that's a long blade. Yeah, well, you don't have to worry about it. I'm not using it on you. Nice thunk to it. Some people don't like to do that, but I like the knife to have the ability to survive that. And since this is glued on type of stuff, you don't really see any pins for the covers in here. There is a pin for the mainspring, just the way knives work, I'm sure, between the liner, between the brass liner and the back spring. There's got to be a pin down there, and it's usually raised up right here, and that's where you would get blade wrap, but I don't see any. Like I said, it's got a very good snap to it. Ugh, look at that. It starts snapping from way back there. Yeah, that's a guillotine. That's a finger chopper. You're going to have to watch out. If you're starting to close this and your fingers aren't out of the way by this time, it's too late to decide. It also has a good forward snap. I've seen Patty and other people do this by pushing on a blade. I cut myself enough without tempting fate. I'll do it from the kick. The rest of you guys can be daredevils. I get cut enough. My worst cut recently was not from a knife. It's healing up now. Knipex pliers, man. I was squeezing something and my thumb got in between the jaw handles. Not up here, not where the jaws are, but the handles. And I was squeezing. Oh, man. That hurts worse than a cut, is when you crush yourself. It went deep too, and it started getting infected because I didn't treat it like a cut. But your thumb, you use your thumb a lot, and it's going to get all kinds of dirt and stuff like that exposed to it, and it started pussing out. So basically, I had to tear, the skin off and get air to it, and it started healing up. But yeah, you got to watch out with infections with knives and stuff. Usually you get a clean cut and you don't have any problem. But if you get like a jagged cut or a ragged, something like that, or any puncture that goes deep, just make sure you clean that out real well. Anyway, there you go. I really like this one. That's kind of a history of the ticklers. I really enjoy this particular pattern in all its sizes. My favorite, I would have to say, the one I use the most is the small one for cleaning. And like I said, this little needle point right here, you don't get that on a lot of knives. And that allows you to get into areas that other knives can't. You just put a little piece of cotton back there and you're cleaning out channels. Some of the crap is in here. You just use the back side of it and you clean out. It's the same way with like bone right here. You don't want to dig too much, but you can scrape out stuff. You can get around the shield. Rough Rider does that a lot. They'll have a gunk in their shield from polishing it, basically. It looks like buffing compound. It'll get in there and it'll be black marks and stuff. And you can try to get it out with a cloth and everything, but a lot of times if you just carefully just go through and scrape it out, a toothpick, no other knife will do that for you. This guy is very, like I said, very needle point. He could work, but you see how it starts widening up pretty fast. So that's mainly what I use toothpicks for, and like I said, collecting patterns. Like if you, the small toothpick in this size is, I think like around $10 or $12. I'll have to look at it. And this one's 21 at Smoky. So if you weren't sure if you like Stoneworx pattern, you could get a small example of that. So there you go. I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day. I forgot to show any cutting with it. This is what the edge grind looks like. Not too bad. They got a little thin up here. Not too bad. Yeah, it's sharp. Could be sharper. I feel a little bit of drag in places. See where that paper's grabbing? But I haven't sharpened it at all. Yeah, usually you need to touch up your knives and stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you what the pull was on this one. About a 5, almost a 6. I mean, right there where you'd want it to be. There you go.